kicking goals. So this week, Carlton won, Collingwood lost again. The $1.7 million man impressed with a screamer, but not much else. St Kilda is still boring, and Bailey Smith wins the AFL Oversized Headband of the Year award. Just another week in the AFL. Let's get straight into this week's tipping results. I had a decent result last week with 8 out of 9. It was a much better tipping weekend for me, and I jumped up 7 spots to number 31. I now have a total of 126 tips right. Woo! Fucking whoo! But the real tipping legends are much more glamorous than me. At number 1 is Kim298 on 138 with 007 Warrior and Shivo both on 134. Good stuff, fellas. Hawthorn versus Carlton. Hawthorn bounced back with a great win over Port Adelaide on the weekend, keeping in touch with the top 4. Jack Gunston and Jarnan Impey were Hawks' best players with 3 goals each, with Dylan Moore getting 32 disposals and 2 goals. Carlton had another classic win over Melbourne, this time by 8 points. Cripps was back to his Brownlow form with his 29 touches, with Ashton Moore kicking a career-high 4 goals and Charlie Curnow returning into a bit of form with kicking 3 of his own, including a sealer near the end. Carlton needed to win, which they did, and finally breaking a 4-game losing streak. Although the Hawks are much higher on the ladder and considered the better team, Carlton can be unpredictable. They have the talent, but I don't think it will be enough for them to beat Hawthorn on the night. Hawthorn by 8 points. Essendon versus Western Bulldogs. Essendon's awful season only got worse this round, getting smashed by GWS. They have at least 16 of their best players injured and couldn't kick a goal until late in the second quarter. Merritt was Essendon's best with 29 disposals. He was the only player that really stood out for the Dons. Meanwhile, the Western Bulldogs had an unlucky 10-point loss to Brisbane. They kept up with the Lions for most of the game but couldn't get over the line. They have now lost 2 consecutive games and they are in real danger of missing the finals. Riley West led the way with 4 goals and Bailey Smith racked up 33 disposals. Once again, I see Essendon getting pummeled due to their injuries, as it will be hard going past the Dogs with midfielders Bontempelli and Kennedy. It's going to be a one-sided game as the Dogs have a much better team on paper. Western Bulldogs by 69 points. GWS versus Sydney. GWS had a convincing win over Essendon, making it 5 consecutive wins and are looking dangerous in the second half of the year.
Nick McCallum, 7
They are also
minutes.
in the hunt for the top 4. Jake Stringer led the way with 3 goals against his former team, with Finn Callaghan amassing 33 disposals. Sydney had a 31-point win over North Melbourne, winning 5 of their last 6 matches to keep their season alive. Isaac Heaney was unbelievable with 5 goals and 34 disposals in a BAG performance. Brodie Grundy was also outstanding once again in the ruck. Both teams will be aiming for a win since it's a battle of the bridge. GWS have an unbelievable forward line with Hogan, Stringer, Green, Cardman and Brown, while Sydney have Heaney, Gordon, Blakey, Chad Warner and Grundy playing their big roles around the ground. So it's going to be another classic between the 2 Sydney teams. Sydney by a point. Gold Coast versus Brisbane. Gold Coast had a horrible 61-point loss against the Crows on the weekend. In fact, they couldn't kick a goal until midway through the 3rd quarter. The standout player for the Suns was Matt Rowell with 30 disposals. Brisbane are coming off a 10-point win over the Western Bulldogs with their 4th win in a row, cementing their top 2 spot on the ladder. Will and Levi Ashcroft both dominated with 5 goals and 44 disposals between them. Josh Dunkley received 28 disposals. Gold Coast have got a bit to play for after a big loss on the weekend. They will need Ben King to kick a bag if they are to have any chance against the Lions. Brisbane are aiming for another win to try and steal top spot over Collingwood. They would be hungry for back-to-back premierships and would need the motorbike man Charlie Cameron to get some form back. and for guys like Logan Morris and Eric Hipwood to kick plenty of goals again. Brisbane by 13 points. Fremantle versus West Coast. Fremantle had a fantabulous 1-point win over top of the ladder Collingwood. Fremantle were 22 points down with 13 minutes to go and they looked like they were going to lose. But Fremantle bounced back and they managed to hold on in a classic. Patrick Voss had a career high 6 goals tally with Caleb Sarong amassing 37 disposals and a goal. Fremantle again keeping themselves in the hunt for a top 4 position. West Coast had a disappointing loss against Richmond and they couldn't make a game of it. It's fair to say that they will be the wooden spooners this year. West Coast's best players were Liam Duggan with 31 disposals and Harley Reid with 27 touches and 2 goals. This upcoming clash should see Fremantle clock up an easy win against the Eagles. Let's face it, West Coast have no chance of winning. They will finish on the bottom of the ladder, but with the number 1 pick. Fremantle by 79 points. North Melbourne versus Geelong. Last round, North Melbourne lost to Sydney by 31 points. They were in it for 3 quarters, but in the last quarter they couldn't get going and Sydney got away from them. North's best player was Jai Sinkin with 28 disposals and a goal. Back in Victoria, Geelong had a gutsy 31-point win over St Kilda. They were challenged by the Saints all day, but they managed to get the 4 points and put themselves back in the top 4. Jeremy Cameron returned to form with 5 goals, with Sean McManus kicking for himself and Max Holmes getting 32 disposals. North Melbourne will probably get smashed this week. They are facing a much more experienced Geelong outfit who have only missed the finals twice since 2007. Geelong have players like Dangerfield, Smith, Cameron, Neil, etc. that can really lift the team in big games, especially when it comes to the finals. Geelong by 57 points. Adelaide versus Port Adelaide. Adelaide had a great win over the Gold Coast Suns and they did it pretty easily. They also won 7 of their last 8 matches. Alex Neil-Bullen was clearly man of the match with 3 goals and 31 disposals. Down south in Tasmania, Port Adelaide had a 38-point loss to Hawthorn. They hung in there for 3 quarters, but when the last quarter came, the Hawks got away and Port Adelaide couldn't find any mojo whatsoever. Port's best players were Jace Burgoyne and Ollie Wines with 26 disposals each. Adelaide have got a lot of firepower in their team and they are unstoppable at the moment. I don't expect much from Port Adelaide this game since they are out of the finals race. This is going to be one-sided and the Crows will beat Port by more than 10 goals. Adelaide by 71 points. Richmond versus Collingwood. Last round, Richmond had a wonderful interstate win against West Coast, avoiding the dreaded wooden spoon. Tim Taranto was awesome once again with 33 disposals and 3 goals. Jacob Hopper received 33 disposals and kicked 2 goals, while Ryan Mansell kicked 3. On Sunday afternoon, Collingwood had a shocking 1-point loss to Fremantle, giving them back-to-back losses by a goal or less. Collingwood's best player was unsurprisingly Nick Dacos with a ballistic Thermo Nicola extra fantabulous 43 disposals. Would he look good in a Carlton jumper? I feel a trade deal coming on. Jesse Motlop for Nick Dacos. Richmond will be coming to this game full of confidence after winning their last 2 matches, with Collingwood losing their last 2. But I expect Collingwood to bounce back with a severe shellacking. With players like the Dacos brothers, Darcy Moore, Tom Mitchell, Still Sidebottom, Scott Pendlebury, etc. They won't be down for too long. All teams have their moments from time to time, but we all know pretty much that Collingwood will respond. Collingwood by 40 points. St Kilda versus Melbourne. St Kilda had their 6th consecutive loss last round, this time against Geelong. They remained in the game showing some promising signs, but once again it wasn't enough to get the job done. St Kilda's best players were Wanganeen Miller with 36 disposals and 2 goals, and Jack Sinclair with 33 disposals. On Saturday night, Melbourne had an 8-point loss to Carlton. They have now lost 6 of their last 7 matches. Melbourne haven't been themselves since the 2021 Premiership. Maybe they need a new coach. The best players were Pickett with 5 goals and 23 disposals, while Trent Rivers received 27 disposals. These two teams are pretty much evenly matched at the moment with the way they are both playing. You never know, we may end up with a small forward shootout between Missy Higgins from St Kilda and Cozzy Pickett from Melbourne. Now that's something I'd love to see. Melbourne by 6 points. Let me start by saying this.
God, please.
This is not good for my health. Lose, 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 win. What the fuck, it's giving me vertigo. Anyway, health issues aside, I'll happily take the win, and like a true blue proud Carlton supporter, I'll brag about it. Well done, Carlton. Captain Cripps. Patrick Cripps was back to his Brownlow best with a game-high 29 disposals. His tackling pressure was also back on show, along with multiple centre clearances. It was another Mount glorious game for the captain, and he deserved the 3 votes. Cripps was like a gladiator going to battle with his life on the line. Everything is at stake. Every game. Moi. Ashton Moore had a career best game, booting 4 goals. Eddie Betts, who was commentating on the sidelines, watched on as Moore was picking up crumbs and kicking fancy goals. Just like Betts himself is famous for. Moyer's future is looking really bright, and being only 20 years of age, he has plenty of years to prove his worth. King Curnow. Charlie Curnow returned to goal-kicking form by snagging 3 goals, including the sealer, with under 3 minutes to go. He was under the pump in the last month with his goal-kicking, but he made his shots count this time round. Hopefully he can continue the goal-kicking form in the up-and-coming weeks. Well, after 4 losses in a row, Carlton are finally back on the winners list. Our young players stepped up, with Carroll and Young kicking their first goals in the AFL. They worked hard all night and played some smart football at times, which only makes me wonder why they don't play like that more often. God, what can you say? We are finally winners again.
God, please.
So the leading disposals for Carlton were Cripps with 29, Chera with 20 and Hewitt with 19. The leading goal kickers were Ashton Moore with 4, Charlie Curnow with 3 and singles to Fleeing Young, Matt Carroll, Adam Chera and Francis Evans. Votes for the kicking goals medal are Chera with 1, Moore with 2 and 3 votes will go to Cripps. And the total votes are in first place Hewitt with 32, in second place Cripps with 20 and in third place Chera with 15. Thank you for watching this video, it is much appreciated. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side.